Hey, have you heard of the five love languages, or have you been living under a rock? No, don't add the second part, okay?
Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. So happy to welcome back Dr. Ramon Presson, the author of When Will My Life Not Suck and couples therapist for over 30 years. Ramon, thank you so much for joining me again.
Oh, Silke, it's good to be back with you.
I'm so happy you're back. We had so much fun last time. And I should tell our audience that, you've authored numerous books and you hold the distinction of having authored or co-authored 3 books with Dr. Gary Chapman, who, of course, is best known for the 5, I'm sitting right there,
Yeah,
the
I see it
5.
in the background there. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that just for you and your buddy. And I
Product
say your
placement.
Yeah. And I say your buddy because you knew, and I'll say Gary for a moment, before he was ever world famous. His book has been translated into 50 languages, sold over 20 million copies, and is just has such an impact on relationships. And
Right.
today I want to talk about what does our audience need to know about this and how it relates to them. So let me throw it over to you. I almost said Gary. Let me throw it over to you, Raymond. And yeah, tell me how this all got started.
I known Gary since I was 14,
Wow.
and later after graduate school, worked on staff with Gary, and so I consider him a hero and a mentor.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, it was fascinating to watch and see something that you have on a piece of notebook paper somewhere, perhaps,
Yeah.
and now it's a best-selling book, something that has helped millions of people all over the world. None of that ever changed Gary. He's still has always been a very humble, approachable
Mm-hmm.
person.
That's nice to know.
So
Yeah.
I just like for
Yeah.
folks to know that, because sometimes
Yeah.
we've met some of our heroes. It was better to admire them from a distance.
Let me jump in for a second and just let our audience know that how this my understanding based on what I've read in some interviews I've watched with Dr. Chapman is that he created or found the love languages based on a question that kept coming up in therapy over and over and over again when one spouse would say that my partner, my spouse, my whatever doesn't love me. Talk about that, how that created the 5 love languages.
Yeah, because Gary experienced, and therapists all over the world experience a spouse saying, I don't feel loved. I don't think that you love me. And the other spouse, like, how could you say that? They're genuinely kind of baffled. How could you say that? How could you feel that?
Mm-hmm.
And my response to that is, we can conceptually know a lot of things, but there's a difference between knowing something conceptually and experiencing it.
Yeah.
And the experience of it then translates in this alchemy, if you will, to
Yeah.
uh, feeling it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's about, we each, and this is what Gary discovered, is that we each feel love in a different way. And if we don't feel it that way, or if our partner doesn't give that to us, that's where that lack of love is. I'll just mention everybody can look it up, but it's like words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch are the 5 love languages. For one, I'm a physical touch person. Paul, not so much. We don't show our love, or we show our love, I should say, the way that we want to receive it, not necessarily the way that the person receives it. And I believe that was Dr. Chapman's original intent, to know what your partner's is, and then adapt your behavior accordingly. And
Right.
my first question to you, if you agree with what I just all said,
Mhm. Yeah.
And this is where some of the critique comes in, which we're going to talk about today too, is that when somebody's as successful as this book is, there's going to be people that are critiquing it.
Oh yeah.
And I want to hear what is or may not be valid. But one thing that I would say is, are we being authentic doing that? Or is that sort of a way of faking it if that's not the way? Talk to me about that.
Right. Because I think there's a fallacy, and I hear this in my work with couples a lot, and I understand the concern or the fear where it's coming
Mm-hmm.
from. But the fallacy is that unless it comes naturally to you, then it's not authentic or genuine. And if it's not
Mm-hmm.
authentic or genuine, then it's not meaningful. Well,
Right.
okay, let's take that second, third part. Yeah, I agree with that. If
Mm-hmm.
it's not genuine and authentic, then yeah, that puts a discount sticker on how meaningful it is.
Yeah.
But I think the fallacy is that unless it comes naturally, that if you have to be mindful and intentional about
Mm-hmm.
it, then that's equated with somehow it being not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
I can be mindful and intentional, and that does not negate that it's coming from from an authentic place. But I understand the concern that if it's not coming naturally, then it's forced, faked, obligatory, it's transactional. I'll do this for you in hopes that you'll do this for me. So I understand where those concerns are coming from. Oh, my goodness, just think of all the things that would never, happen if we completely relied on what, came to us naturally.
I love that distinction, naturally and intention. I think is what you said, is that
Yeah, yeah,
if
natural, and I can be, yeah, intentional and mindful.
and mindful, yeah, because if we do that, that means a lot. That means we've thought about what we can do to make our partner feel better. I mean, that makes sense to me. Again, I'll throw it out to our audience too. We get so many comments on these videos. Is this something you've experienced? Have you thought about this? Let us know, because it is something that has come up, in the critique, and it's something to think about. The other thing that has come up is that because the book has been so incredibly popular and successful, that a lot of people have, it's a household thing. Oh yeah, it's my love language, 5 love languages. They have no idea that Dr. Gary Chapman created this, or where it came from, or what the original intent is. And
Right.
people are accused of using it selfishly, or that's one of the critiques, is that it's like, okay, my love language is this. Now I got to get you to speak that, or I'm going to find a partner that does that. So so I get what I need.
Yeah, that if that were being used for that
Mm-hmm.
purpose, yeah, that is pretty selfish.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I mean, I get it. We love to learn about ourselves, and do we want to feel loved? But in a relationship, if I'm just only concern is that you love me in a way that fills me up, then I mean that's a good definition of narcissism.
Yeah.
And here's where I think when the love languages is used by a couple in a healthy way is that I'm learning and understanding something about myself
Mm-hmm.
and what I respond to, and why sometimes I react negatively the way that I do. I'm understanding my partner better. I'm understanding now, I
Yes.
have a glimpse, an understanding of what speaks love to them. They understand their love language, they understand mine. I refer to that as understanding to the fourth power, that I creatively, meaningfully find ways that make you feel special, feel cared for,
Mm-hmm.
feel seen, feel heard, all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's funny because when I first discovered them, and I actually, I bought it, I was told to get 2 books and have it read, I read it and have your partner read it. And Paul hasn't read it yet, but it's okay. uh, and I thought about that. What am I doing this for? Am I doing this to understand him better, or no? I really wanted him to know how much physical touch meant to me. So in a way, that was selfish, and I that struck me when I read this. Did I do this in a selfish way? So I'm going to think about that some more. What my intention was.
Yeah, if that were only if my only intent or desire was that you know what speaks love to me,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever yours is, I'm not interested. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit like Silke. I always remember I had a couple, and they it was like they were engaged and not engaged,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a couple about our age. They'd both been married before. She was trying to communicate to him, like for instance, one of her love languages was physical affection,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is words of affirmation. And I remember the time she said to him, uh, Tim, it's like I've given you the operator's manual in the glove compartment. I've given you. There's no secret. I'm not trying to hide. I'm not trying to be a mystery. What I respond to.
Yeah. What don't you get?
Not only have you not read it, but I can't
Yeah.
tell that you're interested.
Right, right. No, I
Um,
get it. And it's so like what she was saying, this is so simple. This is so simple, which is again one of the things that has come up as a criticism I wanted to ask you about is that people say, oh, this is just too simplistic. You focus on one language and that's going to, save your relationship or whatever. And to me, it's because it's so simple and so accessible to so many people to have some sort of a formula, theory, whatever, that they can implement and actually think about the other. I mean, the simplicity of it to me, and I'll say that up front, asking you, is actually a huge benefit to where other, very well-known therapists and authors have said, yeah, it's nice to think about your partner, but there's so much more to it.
yeah, and I've said for years that one of the brilliant parts, and whether even Gary realized it and intended at the time, was that the brilliance of it was the simplicity of
Right.
it. Here's my honest take on that. Gary's book is not the Holy Grail, and he
Right.
didn't write it to be the Holy Grail. The thing is, none of us. I mean, I've written several books. None of my books are the Holy Grail in that
Yeah.
even if everything in the book or Gottman's book or Sue Johnson's book or Stan Tatkin's book or Terry
Yeah.
Real's book, even if everything in it is 100% true, none of our books can contain all of the
Right.
truth.
Right. And it's not about therapy. I mean, I get it. If there's something emotionally wrong,
Yeah,
yeah, of course there's a lot more to it. We're talking about healthy couples, or healthy people, couples who are having trouble communicating in their relationship. It is, and it can be simple. Some of it
yeah,
can be simple, and that's what we need to remember. And that leads me to another question too, is that if again, going back to simplicity, which I personally love, you can do something yourself. I think that even if the other person, oh, this is a bunch of crap, love languages, but if you understand, if you believe it, and you know what your partner's love language is, I guess my question is, can you're alone, help change your relationship, make it better?
yeah. Because gosh, I'm going to probably mess up the title of the book, but there's a book titled "It Only Takes One to Tango,"
Oh, I like
and
that.
the idea is that in a relationship, in a system, in systems theory, if one part of the system makes an adjustment, then it changes the
Yeah.
system, and we understand that in the system of ecology. One of the things that I say, and maybe I'm previewing or jumping ahead to answering a question that you might would have asked, is what if I seem interested in like knowing my love language and my partner's, but he or she doesn't seem that interested. Um, my what I suggest is I'm going to cheat and look at my notes. Asking the person first, just a series of questions. Hey, have you heard of the five love languages, or have you been living under a rock? No, don't add the second part, okay? But hey, have you heard of the five love languages?
Mm-hmm.
Second thing that they say is, I think I know what your primary and secondary love language is, but I don't want to assume that I've got it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to know because I do want you to feel loved.
Yeah, you're right. I was going to ask you, how do you best do this? How do how do you bring this up? How do you implement it? I know finding your own love language, we'll link to a quiz that Dr. Chapman has online.
Mhm.
You can find out yours if you really don't know. But to your point, it can be a little complicated perhaps to actually put it into action. So let me have you continue with how to do
Mhm.
it.
And then, perhaps later, not even in the same conversation, but if the person, took a quick look at the list and said, uh, I think mine are physical affection and words of affirmation. You might say, with a smile, do you know what mine are? Uh, would you like to know?
Yeah.
Then it's more reciprocal than starting with a book assignment.
No, that's what I did.
Yeah,
Yeah. Here, read
yeah.
this. Read this. Yeah. Take a
um,
quiz. Go online, take that quiz.
the five love languages is really about relationship enrichment versus oftentimes in couples therapy we are doing relationship repair.
Well, and you're right. This is about enrichment, not repair. And I think the critique, I don't know. Again, I think some of it might be jealousy. Who knows? But
I
I
wonder.
love this, huh?
I wonder, thought the same thing.
Yeah, 20 million copies or more. Maybe it's more by now. I don't know what the stats are, but the point is, it resonates with people. It's spoken to people. It's helped people, and it's something we can do without paying a therapist, hundreds of dollars an hour to do so. And so I think it's a fabulous tool, and of course, I highly recommend it. We are starting to come to the end. Well, how would you sum the segment up for our viewers?
Here's one of my favorite statements, and I'll give credit to myself because I made it up. Um, Love delights in delighting the beloved,
I like that. I
and
like
that,
that.
and when if both are doing that, then we're both experiencing, not just conceptually knowing, but experiencing, feeling loved, cared for, in small and meaningful ways.
No better way to end than that. Raymond, thank you so much.
Thank
Obviously a
you.
topic we can talk about forever. I'll link to the book if you haven't bought it yet. I'll link to your information so people can get a hold of you directly if they so choose. And I look forward to having you back again soon on Second Act
I
TV.
insist. It'll hurt my feelings if you don't.
Bye.